Today on Public Eye News, an update on the snowmobile accident with a logging truck in Marquette County. And later, Facebook blocks news access in Australia. Later, Brady Hinshaw will have your weather for the weekend, and Devontae Stein will be back with your sports update. Hi, I'm Ross Ray, and welcome to Public Eye News. This morning, a Wisconsin snowmobiler is in a critical but stable condition after a crash with a logging truck in Marquette County. Michigan State Police said the crash happened at 4 p.m. on Wednesday on US 41 in Champion Township. Troopers said the snowmobiler was crossing traffic to get to the other side of a trail, but a logging truck clipped the back of his snowmobile while he was crossing. The Wisconsin man has not had his name released yet, but he has been taken to the UP Health System in Marquette. And Superior Extrusion Inc. announced plans for an expansion and new jobs at its facility in K.I. Sawyer. The expansion is estimated to cost $20 million and will see an additional 44 jobs brought on. Regarding the expansion, Marquette County Board Chair Joe Corkin said, quote, "They have a 15-year plan, and this is the first expansion in that plan. And they plan on having 3 more, so it's an exciting growth business. And they have a lot more demand for their product that they can produce, so that's good news for Marquette County," end quote. And as the UP is experiencing freezing temperatures lately, volunteer firefighters of Delta County have important tips to keep yourself safe from frostbite and hypothermia. These firefighters often experience the sheer cold of the UP while responding to calls and have been trained to spot signs of these cold weather conditions. The first sign of frostbite includes redness in the skin, and extremities are going numb, and it can be set in just after 15 minutes of exposure to the extreme cold. While hypothermia occurs when your body loses more heat than it can produce. It's important to dress in layers and to wear a hat and gloves and to carry an extra set of clothes in your car just in case you get stuck in the middle of the winter weather. And Governor Gretchen Whitmer has appointed a new board members to the Michigan Iron Industry Museum Advisory Board this morning. These new appointees included Daniel L. Fountain of Negaunee, a member of the Negaunee Historical Society, Marquette Underwater Preserve Committee, and the Marquette Range Engineer Club, Karen L. Casper of Ishpeming, a volunteer of the Central Upper Peninsula and Northern Michigan University Archives, the Bermuda Upper Peninsula Heritage Center, and the Cliffs Shaft Mine Museum, as well as being the Vice President of the Ishpeming Area Historical Society. And James R. Paquette of Negaunee, a member of the Board of Trustees for the Historical Society of Michigan and Marquette Regional History Center and Museum. Their terms will begin today and will expire on October 4th, 2024. And don't touch that dial, because after the break we'll be back with your national and international news. Stay tuned.
Stream the best of PBS on any device with the PBS Video app. All your favorite drama, history, science, news, and documentaries, all in one place. Watch your PBS station live or catch up on the shows you missed. Discover new favorites from PBS and locally produced shows from your station. Get the PBS Video app now and stream the best of PBS anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back. This morning, Facebook pulled a surprising move by blocking Australians from sharing news stories. This move escalates a fight with the government over whether powerful tech companies should have to pay for news organizations for their content. Australian Parliament Treasurer Josh Fryberg said he was given no warning before Facebook committed the sudden act after the House of Representatives passed legislation that would make Facebook and Google pay for Australian journalism. Australia's government condemned the action as it has blocked some government communication, including messages and emergency services, and even some commercial pages. Facebook and other digital platforms feared that the new legislation in Australia will become an expensive precedent for other communities as governments reamp laws. And UC Davis Medical Center near Sacramento has achieved herd immunity with more than 80% of its staff fully vaccinated. Back in December, the hospital had more than 200 employees out because of the virus. As of yesterday, that number is down to 10. David Bagnod reports.
Meet Chastity Whitmer. She's a nurse. She was delivering babies at the height of the pandemic. And when her time came to be vaccinated, she hesitated.
What were some of your initial concerns?
If I got the vaccine, would I get COVID? What would my side effects be? How long would it last?
Good girl.
But with a husband who stays home and takes care of the kids, this is what changed her mind.
I was orienting a relief charge nurse on my unit, and we were kind of having a discussion. What happens if we got COVID? We wouldn't be able to work, we wouldn't have income, we wouldn't have health insurance, and so we kind of just talked amongst each other and boosted our confidence up and stood in line to get vaccinated.
She and more than 90% of the staff here at UC Davis Medical Center in Sacramento, California, have received at least one dose of the vaccine. Now listen to how high the rate is at the emergency department.
So we have 100% compliance amongst emergency physicians.
100%?
100% amongst the emergency faculty.
This is Dr. Nathan Cooperman. He is in charge of UC Davis's emergency department.
Before the vaccine came out, on any given day, we would have between 100 and 150 employees that were sick with COVID and were calling in sick and were not coming in.
And now?
Now, I think it's single digits. I mean, there's less than 10. Suddenly, there was like this pressure lifted from our shoulders.
It's not just UC Davis's health system. Across the University of California health system, cases among health staff dropped from 431 per week to 171 per week. Back to Nurse Whitmer for a moment. She's gone from being a vaccine skeptic to an evangelizer, and here's why. A few days after she received her second dose, her husband, her mother, her 3 kids, and her grandmother all tested positive for COVID. You know who didn't? She and her grandfather, and they are the only 2 in the family who have been vaccinated.
My husband was extremely sick with COVID pneumonia, was here at the emergency department for 9 hours. My grandmother spent 25 days in the hospital with COVID pneumonia and is still recovering on oxygen. It's not fun seeing your family members sick. It's very scary.
What do I hear in your voice? I hear the breakup.
Yeah, just reliving it.
And when you relive it, what makes you emotional?
Not knowing if my husband would be one of the ones that would live or die.
Now, even though they have achieved herd immunity, you know what they're still doing? Temperature checks, wearing masks, and social distancing everywhere within the hospital. Still, despite the herd immunity. David Begno, CBS News, Sacramento, California.
Now to a troubling new finding that a COVID variant found in 10 U.S. states so far. A study says that the variant 1, which is found in South Africa, reduces antibody protection by the Pfizer vaccine by about 2/3. Pfizer says there's still no clinical evidence that its vaccine is less effective against the variant, but they are working on a booster shot. This comes as South Africa takes a different path of vaccinating its people while struggling to keep up with richer nations. Deborah Pata has more from her story in Johannesburg.
Lee McCabe never imagined he would begin the year packing up his parents' belongings. Heartbreaking reminders of his loss.
I thought we did everything we could to protect them.
For most of last year, McCabe kept his elderly parents, Winona and France, safe, moving them into a cottage on his property. But as COVID infections dropped, they insisted on returning back home, unaware that the virus had mutated and a far more contagious strain was spreading like wildfire across their hometown. First, it took his father. 5 days later, his mother.
Maybe if we didn't let them go home, they'd still be around.
To add to the pain of that regret, just 4 weeks after his parents died, the first batch of life-saving devices landed in South Africa, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
If this arrived a few months earlier, their lives would have been saved. And that makes me angry, because I feel that we have delayed so long in getting much needed help to people that need it.
To date, South Africa has secured barely enough doses to cover half the country, but it's far worse in other developing nations where unequal vaccine apartheid means 9 out of 10 people won't get inoculated this year, many not until 2023, says United Nations Winnie Byanyima.
The virus is moving faster than global action. Our action is too weak. The virus is mutating. We are going to get more dangerous forms of this virus, and we will be running behind it slowly as people die.
Until everyone is safe, sons like Lee McCabe will continue to grieve the loss of parents whom he believed still had many good years ahead of them to enjoy with their family.
Globally, unequal distribution will harm us all, experts warn, leaving reservoirs across the world for new variants to emerge and spread. It's a price people in this country are already paying. The South African strain has become the dominant one here in this country and across its borders in southern Africa. Deborah Patter, CBS News, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And don't go too far, because after the break, we'll be back with your weather and sports. Stay tuned.
On Masterpiece. I don't want Christmas ruined with an unholy argument.
I thought that was the point of it.
Staying for the wedding, or is it all too heartbreaking?
I couldn't be happier for Helen.
This time tomorrow we'll be married.
And the rest of our lives. You look very festive.
Every year he hands out oranges to the kids. Oh, no.
Helen, are you okay?
All creatures, great and small. The season finale on Masterpiece.
Sunday night at 9.
And welcome back. I'm your weatherman, Brady Hinshaw. And behind me on this NMU campus, it is some cloudy skies with snow still on the ground. But if we look at our current conditions, we have cloudy skies with a temperature of 22 degrees, winds out the southeast at 5 miles an hour, and barometric pressure of 30.41 and falling. Looking towards tonight, we have more cloudy skies with a low of 12 degrees, winds out the southwest at 5 miles an hour. Looking towards tomorrow, we have cloudy skies with a high of 22, winds out the northwest at 8 miles an hour. Now looking at our beautiful UP, it's a combination of clouds with 24 in Sault Ste. Marie, 27 in Manistee, both in Menominee and Escanaba it is 26. Over in the western half, we have 24 in Iron Mountain, 20 in Ironwood, 24 in Houghton, and back in beautiful Marquette it is 22. Looking at our week ahead, we have Saturday a high of 26 and a low of 9 degrees and mostly sunny skies. Sunday a high of 31 and a low of 19 and cloudy skies. And Monday a high of 38 and a low of 30 and mostly cloudy skies. Now on to Devontae Stein with the sports.
Thanks, Brady. Looking ahead to some of our events, our NMU Wildcats will be competing this upcoming weekend. We have your swim and dive team competing in the GLIAC Championship today and tomorrow morning. The indoor track and field team will be participating in the SVSU tune-up tomorrow, February 19th, while the women's volleyball team will be traveling downstate as they take on Ferris State tomorrow. Your women's basketball team will also be on the road as they travel to take on Davenport tomorrow. Good luck, Wildcats. The Philadelphia Eagles are parting ways with quarterback Carson Wentz as earlier this morning they traded Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for 2 draft picks. The Eagles received the Colts 2021 third-round draft pick as well as a conditional 2022 second-round draft pick that could turn into a first-round draft pick under a few situations. If Wentz plays in at least 75% of the Colts' offensive snaps next season, the pick would turn into a first-rounder for the Eagles. The other way the conditional pick can turn into a first-rounder is if Wentz plays in 70% of the snaps for the Colts and the Colts make the playoffs. Wentz is reuniting with his former offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, Frank Reich. Wentz was signed by the Eagles to a 4-year, $128 million extension back in the summer of 2019. But after ranking 34th in the NFL in completion percentage and first in interceptions and sacks, the Eagles benched Wentz in favor of Jalen Hurts for the final 4 games of the last season. Although things didn't end pleasantly for Wentz in Philly, he does hold the franchise single-season record for completions, completion percentage, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. Finally, looking back last night at some of the action going around in the NBA, the Atlanta Hawks take down the Boston Celtics 122-114 behind a monster game from Trae Young with 40 points and 8 assists. The Portland Trail Blazers take down the New Orleans Pelicans 126-124. Damian Lillard having an MVP-type game as he scored 43 points and dished out 16 assists to his teammates. Zion Williamson had 36 points in the loss for the Pelicans. Detroit Pistons drop a close one on the road against Chicago 102-105. Jeremiah Grant had 43 points in the loss for Detroit, while Zach LaVine had 37 points. But I'm sorry, that is all the time we have for you today in Public Eye News. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.